Hi. So I watched a couple videos talk about renting and buying a house even though I have zero money. But still it is an interesting place to watch because the discussion between like generation about the reason why you should own a house or you should rent a place and the financial reason behind it is something to be considered. What most people leave out of is the actual reason why you need to have a house, a stable house, and all that stuff. So, which is why I want to make this video. So, coming from family that have houses and had experience renting a place when I was in college once, I can tell you that, of course, it always depends on where you live, but generally, people take account to buying a place with buying a mortgage, right? Having to like take the interest rate and all that stuff. But one of the favorite saying I heard from a movie, the Ocean 12, is the interest is killing me or something like that. It is the interest rate that is the root of your problem, right? Like if you could buy a house with no interest rate, you're basically taking a rent, right? But after like 20, 30 years, it becomes your house and you got an extremely stable and security place to live in. That is the main important part about buying a house. People kind of glance over when it comes to the importance of buying a house, right? You have a stable security like home that is your, and it will always be your unless like the government is doing some like extremely terrible thing that could happen to you. But that is the idea of owning a house, owning a piece of land for yourself, so that you could never be kicked out, so that you don't have to living in this state of trying to find the next house to rent. That not many people talk about. The people keep fight like the financial reason behind renting a place is that, oh, including the inflation rate, I could just pay like for 30 years and I may make a lot of money, right? You don't account for the fact that you could get kicked out of your own house while you're renting because the people who have a place to rent out usually have enough money to throw you away. Like clearly, you could deposit like 3 months of rent or 6 months of rent, and the landlord could easily kick you out. Even if a contract could be had, they could still violate the contract and pay you out just to kick you out. You have very zero to none security about the place that you are renting. Of course, it like depend on where you live. Second of all, is that of course that is account for the renting and having to move places, furniture, and all that stuff. And another aspect of buying a house is if you are in a good neighborhood, you would really want to stay there for a really long time, right? Not to mention the fact that maybe you have family, you have friends, you have job, you have your own family, right? You have kids and all that stuff, and keep moving houses could affect their mentality and how they grow up in the environment that your kid grow up in and all that stuff, right? People usually associate the fact of having your own family, having a wife and kid with buying a place because you become like settled down, you become stable in one place. That is the meaning of buying a house, which is why a lot of people want to buy a house, and the government really actively encourage people to buy a house because it drives up the birth rate because people settle down. And when it comes to renting, right, you can be comfortably moving around, right? You don't tie into one place. You don't tie into with your like old mother who cannot really travel much, right? Who cannot really go to different places in the city, different state and all that stuff. And you don't have a lot of furniture. That is another fact that people don't talk about. Like living in an Asian family, you have so many heritage furniture, like that old pieces of wood that never break down. Like those things are extremely good. You would never want to throw that out. Like trust me, the differences to renting and buying is a lot to consider because in nature by themselves is different. Financially is one thing to consider, but I don't think it really that matter as a whole. Like which way that you choose, in the end it's gonna be financially benefit for you. Like yeah, sure, in the other option on renting maybe you make more money. It just depends on where you live and how you being treated, right? Like if you rent in a place where the landlord is just horrible and you're just trying to save up a couple bucks, is it really worth it? So many things to consider. So I don't think financially it is something to be considered about when comparing renting and buying, but the nature of the fact that what is renting for and what is buying for is the most important factor to consider. You're buying a house, you settle down, you have a family, you become stable, you want to live there for maybe the rest of your life, and you have a place that you call your own. Not many people can take that away. Maybe your wife can, but you have a place of your own. You can do stuff, you can modify it, you can change it, you can buy a bunch of useless thing and then you store it on your own house and you be fine with it, right? No one complain. Of course there is the fact that the rundown cost, but innovating and like repairing a house can be a fun thing. House break down and you kind of got a chance to not only renovate your house but maybe build like a better one. You can do that as well. You cannot really do that with your rent. And so for the rent part, you can have flexibility in some way that if you are alone, you don't planning to get married, you don't think you want to settle down, you have a job that is really flexible where you can move around and you're okay with it, right? Traveling and all that stuff, and you don't really have anything that tie you down like your family or like a piece of furniture that you wouldn't really throw away. You can live in luxurious places, right? Enjoy those things for maybe a couple of months, right? Experience it, and after you're done you can just move out and do all the stuff. It is a good option for young people because now buying a house is extremely impossible, and just having kids is also as well. So yeah, renting seems like a good option, but it comes down to the nature of those things. So you don't really need to compare financially, thinking about those micro finance money thing. It's just gonna really bring nothing to you. Like yeah, you make some extra buck, but when it comes down to it, there's just so many factors to consider that you cannot really take advice from people who like analyze this more detail from in your life. They cannot do that, only you can. So yeah, take into that fact, buy a house, renting a house, you have to consider on your own. And so yeah, thank you for watching. See you next one. Goodbye.